Greetings and welcome again to another Mind Stiller. If you're like me and many people who begin on this path of connecting with something higher than ordinary consciousness, the day-to-day stuff that drives us all crazy, we always ask ourselves, why should I bother stilling my mind? What's in it for me? Will I be smarter, richer, prettier, more popular? And all those things a person naturally asks themselves when they start on the journey of connecting with something bigger than what's going on upstairs. And for myself, as an artist, writer, creative person, always, my question was, well, how am I going to create if I'm stilling my mind? Because my mind, my brain, that thing that does all this stuff that we do in life, is a necessary part of the creative process, isn't it? And I asked myself that, I asked teachers, and I experimented, and I kept wanting to meditate or stilling my mind. It's the same thing. What we're doing here is leading into a meditation practice by stilling the mind with these little videos. So in my journey, I was a very unhappy young person. I had addictions up the kazoo. You name it, I had it. Without restraint. Except I didn't jump out of airplanes in parachutes or climb Mount Everest or do any of the thrill-seeking, well, I sailed a lot. For some, that's pretty much of a thrill, but for me it was adventuring with my home, like being a turtle. Wherever you go, you have your home. And so as I began the journey of stilling the thoughts, unwinding the process of always having to analyze and be logical and know all the answers, and tuning out of knowledge and using that when I needed knowledge, but tuning into that stillness that we get when our mind is at rest, when we've made friends with this metaphysical organ called the mind. The physical organ is the brain. The metaphysical organ that you can't take out and put under a microscope. It is not something that you can analyze, but it is part of us. We are much more than you could ever imagine, that I could ever imagine. We are much more than the physical, much more than the mental. And the spiritual is just as important as those other parts of ourselves. So when I began to still my mind, and I got through the basic hurdles of issues coming up, which happens, it's called purification, and it's a natural process that all spiritual seekers must go through. And some of them stop when it gets to be like a little too intense, but you know, it depends on how much you really want to be a happy person, to be content, even amidst tragedies, worldwide events, such as catastrophic earthquakes and pandemics, killing tens of thousands and millions of people every day. You know, we always confront tragedies in life. It's never going to be paradise, except when we have become so attuned to the natural state of our consciousness that we do finally arrive at paradise. It's within our own power to be in paradise. And yes, you can choose to stay in hell. You can choose to make your life as miserable as you want by imbibing too much in the negatives, by focusing on the tragedies, by seeing life as just the dark. Many people are committing suicide. I've had many dear friends leave that way, and it's always a feeling of tragedy, like, why couldn't you just wait for the miracle to happen? Why couldn't you just call me and I'll talk you through it. And in the morning, this too shall pass. Everything changes. Everything ebbs and flows. So, stilling the mind, as I practiced it and wanted it and had little tiny tastes of what can be called serenity or equanimity or the balance of life. Happiness is kind of a frivolous word. I don't really like happiness. I like the word contentment. In the yoga scriptures, it's called santosha, the place where I practice my hatha yoga every day. I call it the Santosha Shack. It's a little separate building, and it is my abode of bliss. Every time I enter in the Santosha Shack, I greet it with mantras. I spritz a little scented frankincense in the air, and then I begin to sweat because I do very intense hatha yoga and in the heat, because it helps with being able to stretch and do my own thing. I listen to my body. Once you know the poses, the basic way to do yoga, to do stilling of the mind, to do a good diet, to do right thinking and right choosing and good friends and all those things, once you learn the basics, you're on automatic. You don't have to have a manual. You just imbibe this life that guarantees that you are in an acceptance mode and you are not disturbed by even the most horrendous tragedies, because this is a training of the mind. The mind becomes still. And okay, the Buddhists call the active mind a monkey mind. So when we still the mind, we're actually not reprimanding the monkey, saying, "Go away, you naughty little monkey." We're saying, I want to be friends with my little monkey. Here, have a banana. And the banana is a technique that either you choose yourself or a teacher has given you, or in the case of people who are following these little videos I do, mind stillers, I offer things like mantra repetition, sacred mantra, and sound like chanting. That's a very good way to still your mind. Or some people like a candle to focus on visually, or a mandala, or a beautiful scene, or taking a walk in nature where you still your mind and step on the earth consciously with your breath attuned to each step, not jibber-jabbering with a friend, but stilling the little ramblings going on inside this mind of ours that can either be your best friend or your worst enemy, according to your choice. It's all about you choosing. Change is the way life is. Change, transformation. So getting back to why? Why do we meditate? Why did I choose to meditate? Beside the fact that I really had to, or else I was going to go knock on a psychiatric ward somewhere, because I was having trouble with my stinking thinking left over from who knows what. Some people say it's childhood stuff. Some people say it's karmic stuff. Who knows? Who cares? If it's real, it's real. You have to do some housekeeping. You have to sweep out the nasty little spiders and cobwebs inside the mind so you can be clear like a diamond, like Rihanna sings, like a diamond, shine bright like a diamond. You can be a receiver of this divine light, this essence of cosmic consciousness that is permeating the universe, that we are all a part of. Every single one of us, every single thing in existence is part of this. How do I know? Because that is why we meditate. When you meditate, when you get beyond all the rack-a-rack-a-roo, all the purification that I talked about, you come to this place. It's been called nirvana. It's been called peace, inner peace. It's been called Satchidananda, the knowledge that the light is bliss. And when you start to have glimpses of this state in the stillness of the busy mind, it's delicious. You want more. You want to just gobble it up. You want to stay there. Once you start to experience this inner bliss, it supersedes everything. It supersedes the greatest, most brilliant idea that I could have with my thinking mind. And the cosmicness of the thinking comes into the ordinary life. Every moment becomes precious. Every moment becomes filled with that divine light that we have become so familiar with by traveling to that state, that inner state. Now, I'm kind of referring to the mind up here, but in some cultures, it's in the solar plexus area. My Mongolian acupuncturist, the first acupuncturist I worked with, he meditated by feeling that essence, his qi, in the solar plexus and using qigong to work with that energy and feeling it in a different region than here. You might feel it somewhere else in your body. The body is a mysterious thing. We all know that. Everybody reacts differently to everything. I mean, some people love chocolate, other people are allergic. Some people they can consume alcohol without being affected. Other people, like myself, because I'm a recovering person, I take one sip and I'm gone. So I don't. For the last almost 40 years, I just don't, because it's too disruptive. It's too annoying and noisy. I like the connection with the universe. So that's my offering today about why we all should meditate. The more people who still their mind and get into that peaceful place, the world will be permeated with bliss, with more nirvana, with more acceptance, with less turmoil, with less confusion, with less violence, with more love. So the easiest way, and the first that every good meditation or mind-stilling teacher offers, is to work with the breath. The breath is the key to embracing consciousness, because without breath, we are not alive. It's that simple. So to work with the breath, to be consciously following it, envisioning it entering us, and envisioning it leaving our lungs and permeating the whole world, this is a good technique to still the mind. So make sure you have a comfortable position. Make sure your spine is erect. Excuse me. And we're going to breathe. You can have your eyes open or closed. It doesn't matter. Try not to let your eyes roam around, because when your eyes are steady, your mind becomes steady. This is also very important if you practice Hatha Yoga, the poses, asanas. The more your eyes are focused on one particular spot, the steadier your mind becomes. It's called drishti. And drishti is also what our face is like. Drishti is the focused mind, the focused eyes, which stills the mind. And it's also just a little upturn of the lips, like a Buddha smile. It's never like this. No, that's not the way we meditate, or practice yoga, or practice anything that's going to give us the benefits of peace. So with our little tiny upturn Buddha smile, not much, just a little tiny upturn, and our eyes focused on one point. It could be one point on your wall, or one point on this screen if you're looking at me. One point. And then breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your nose. And watch the breath. Pretend it's a beautiful wave. A wave of bliss. You'll notice instantly the vibe has changed. Of course, I'm not talking so much, but the energy within has changed. This is consciousness that is now your focus, instead of all the rackaroo. So let's just stay in this state of inviting consciousness to be with us comfortably.